What's up out there, FA Nation? It's time for another edition of 3-Point Play. I'm your host, Jen Piacenti, and I am joined today by none other than our managing editor over at Fantasy Alarm, John Impemba. John, what's going on today?
Hey, Jen. Yeah, I'm hanging in there. Again, as always, just sort of waiting for sports to come. But, football season's kicking off. We're running some best ball drafts over here to keep us busy. So just kind of ready to get it going.
Yeah, we're ready to play. And so let's play a game today. I thought maybe we would focus a little bit more on NFL today. And I want to compare some players and ask you some other questions too. So we're going to have some fun. Are you ready to go?
Yeah, I'm ready to go. Let's get to it.
All right. So let's talk about the position that everyone is like, do I draft early? Do I draft late? And that's the tight end position. Let's assume you aren't taking a Kelsey, a Kittle, or an Ertz. I want to know which later round pick you prefer at tight end that you think could have a breakout.
Yeah, I mean, this is one that I've kind of been harping on thanks to Andrew Cooper, who does our tight end preview articles over at Fantasy Alarm. Last year, he led me into our Mark Andrews ownership, and obviously that paid off in spades, and someone that he's been hyping up a lot lately. And I'm starting to see a lot more articles around the industry written as well. So, maybe his word is starting to catch on a little bit. But that is Mike Gesicki of the Miami Dolphins. For me, I think he's a late round tight end that I'm going to. And let me tell you a couple of reasons why. Number one, after getting away from Adam Gase's terrible coaching last year, he actually flourished under Brian Flores. A lot of people liked Gesicki as a rookie tight end, but it just didn't pan out. But last year, 51 catches, 570 yards, 5 touchdowns for a tight end. I had him ranking towards the top 10 tight ends in fantasy last season. And one of the biggest reasons for his success was the fact that he didn't actually even slot in as a tight end. And that's my number 2 reason why I'm in on Gesicki this year. Of his snaps last season, 66% of the time, he's lined up in the slot. So he's not even really lining up at the tight end position. He's basically a slot receiver for Miami. He had a lot of success there in that offense. And you look at their new offensive coordinator, Chan Gailey, he coached a tight end back in his Kansas City days called Tony Gonzalez, someone that they use in the slot a lot as well. He had a 1,000-yard season that season in Kansas City with Gailey as the coach there, using Tony Gonzalez in the slot. So I'm not too worried about the offensive coordinator change there. I'm even not too worried about my option number 3 here. People are worried that Preston Williams coming back is going to take away from Mike Gesicki. I don't see that happening at all. Williams actually only lined up in the slot 23% of the time last season when on the field. He's also coming back from a torn ACL. We don't even know if he's going to be 100% back from that as it is. Maybe he's slow to start. So we're talking about an offense that suits him, a coach that is using him correctly, and really not much competition. I mean, Devontae Parker sure had a breakout year last year, but we don't know if we can really rely on him to repeat that number. The number 2 receiver is coming off a torn ACL. We saw Gesicki and Fitzpatrick have a lot of connection at the end of last season. If Tua ends up in the game at some point in time, I mean, we know he can be explosive downfield passer. So for me, you're getting him, in the 9th, 10th, 11th round in some drafts, depending on your format. So I'm going with the upside here. Gesicki, everybody thought he was going to break out as a rookie. Didn't happen due to the coaching. He broke out in year 2. I'm expecting him to take another leap in year 3, given the usage in that offense.
Okay, so that's a good answer. I'm going to poke some holes in it later, but that's the fun of this game. I'm going to now give you my three reasons for my pick, which is Hayden Hurst. So, number 1, pedigree. He was a first-round pick back in 2018. Same kind of argument you're giving for, the underusage of Mike Gesicki. He was always behind Mark Andrews and the blocking tight end Nick Boyle in Baltimore. Now he's going to have a chance. There's a lot of talk about, is the third year the breakout year for wide receivers? Is the third year the breakout year for tight ends? Maybe this is the case with Hayden Hurst. Also, Baltimore knew he was good. I really believe they knew he was good, and they made sure that he went someplace where he could be used, but someplace that wasn't in direct competition with them. They had multiple suitors, but they went with Atlanta because that's no real threat to Baltimore. Number 2, in 2019, he had the 8th best receiving grade, and he was one of 8 tight ends to score a touchdown of 40 yards or more. Basically, his only competition for slot snaps is Russell Gage, and I don't really see that being a big competition. Being in the slot, just as you said for Mike Gesicki, leaves a lot of fantasy upside. Hooper ran the 4th most slot targets for tight end last year, and the 3rd most slot receptions is what he had. And that was in an underused offense in Baltimore, an offense that doesn't pass a lot. Number 3, just simply opportunity, okay? Hooper's red zone looks before he got shipped off to Cleveland were 18. And in Baltimore, Hurst only had 8 of those because he was behind Mark Andrews. So now we have Matt Ryan, who's one of the top passing quarterbacks. We have him projected probably for 4,000 plus yards. And he's frequently shot to the tight end position under this offensive coordinator. So I really think they're going to continue to use that position. And now they have someone really, really talented in that spot, someone that's been underutilized. He will get the opportunity. He should get 80 plus targets. And those are my 3 reasons why I am selecting Hayden Hurst, because of the opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, so I definitely don't dislike Hayden Hurst, and you are getting him at a little bit more of a discount. So if you happen to miss out on Gesicki, I think Hayden Hurst is fine. My worry here comes from a couple of things with him. One, he is at best the 3rd option on that team. He's competing with 2 target-heavy players in Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley. Yes, for all the things that Hooper did well, we don't necessarily know if Ryan's going to have that initial chemistry with Hurst off the bat. They have to work together. And as we've seen, there hasn't really been a chance for these players to come together and get used to one another. So they'll really have to hit it off, during the training camp, during the preseason. As for your point with the red zone, I feel like the addition of Todd Gurley could actually improve the Falcons' red zone offense in terms of a running game. We saw Matt Ryan struggle in the red zone to throw touchdown passes. For whatever reason, they never targeted Julio Jones. They couldn't really run the football either with Coleman or Freeman. A couple seasons ago, Freeman last year was always hurt, Brian Hill, Ito Smith. But now they have Todd Gurley, who was actually very good in the red zone for the Rams last year. I think that could potentially be their play this year, is utilize Gurley a lot once they get inside the 10. Could potentially take away for some of the touchdown opportunities for Hurst. He's certainly going to have an opportunity to shine, but we haven't seen him do it yet, and for that reason is why I lean Gesicki.
Okay, well, now I'm going to poke some holes in your argument about Gesicki. Number 1, the same point that you just gave about Matt Ryan not having chemistry with Hayden Hurst. How do we know that Tua, if he comes on, is going to have the chemistry with Mike Gesicki? Number 2, Mike Gesicki had 89 targets last year. How much more is he going to get? And I know that you argue that Preston Williams isn't really a threat, but it did coincide. His target increase did coincide with Preston Williams being out. So how much better can he get than what he was? I think people are over-expecting. And number 3, the argument of Tony Gonzalez and Chan Gailey, yeah, in the 8 years he's called an offense, Tony Gonzalez is the only one who finished higher than 28 of his tight ends in rankings. So Tony Gonzalez is the exception, not the rule with Chan Gailey. So those are my 3 holes I just poked in your Gesicki argument.
Yeah, I mean, I would certainly say that if you look at the tight ends that he had to coach at the time, there weren't many talented tight ends. Buffalo, he had Scott Chandler, and with New York Jets, his best tight end he had was Austin Seferian-Jenkins, who didn't even really play that year. He only had 17 total targets. So sure, Tony Gonzalez was the best of the bunch. Clearly, he's a Hall of Famer, but he hasn't had the opportunity to really work with a good tight end. His best overall tight end outside of Tony Gonzalez, Scott Chandler, had 571 yards and 6 touchdowns one year, though. Sort of mirrors, I guess, what you want to say we saw from Gesicki last season. So if we're looking for a baseline, I think Gesicki's a better receiving tight end than we ever saw out of Scott Chandler. And plus, again, we're talking about a guy that's going to be playing mostly out of the slot, not necessarily as a tight end. I would assume now, again, Gailey could come in and change things up a little bit. But after seeing the success that we saw out of Gesicki out of slot, I think it would be interesting for Gailey to all of a sudden put him back on the line where he didn't have a lot of his success. So it remains to be seen, but I am definitely high on the breakout that we saw from Gesicki last year, given the pedigree, what we thought he was going to have as a rookie. But again, I think both options are potential top 10 tight end sleepers this year.
I think potentially both of them are as well. But I did just look up a number. Gesicki actually ran a route on 71.6 of Miami's pass plays already in 2019. So I think my main thing is how much more is he going to be worked with Chan Gailey? I don't think there's going to be a major, a big increase there. So I think the bigger increase is going to come to Hayden Hurst, who's going to get all of Hooper's targets. So as far as boom potential, I feel like Hayden Hurst has the bigger value for where you can get him.
It'll be something
But again,
something we have to watch for here for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Again, as we're saying, we like both these guys. These are 2 late round targets. If you're not getting an Ertz, Kittle, Kelsey, and you want to wait a little bit, these are some guys we think are worth taking a shot on. All right, so we like both those tight ends as a late round pick. Let's move on to wide receiver. Let's talk about 2 that are going about the same place, usually around the 3rd round, depending on how you draft. Who do you like better, Allen Robinson or Odell Beckham Jr.?
I mean, you and I have sort of been on opposite sides of the coin here. We just ran a Fantasy on Twitter poll the other day, actually breaking down 4 of the wide receivers, going in the 3rd round. There's Odell Beckham, Allen Robinson, Juju Smith-Schuster was all part of that list there. And Odell actually had the lead. Robinson was in last, but I actually like both, but I'm going to go with Odell Beckham here, and for a couple reasons here. Number one, despite the poor play of Baker Mayfield last year, who had a 59% completion percentage, pretty much decreased in all of his quarterback numbers from the season prior. Odell Beckham still put up 1,000-yard receiving year, 74 catches, 4 touchdowns. So though he had a bad quarterback throwing him the football, he was still able to produce at a pretty solid level. Number two, he was actually hurt last year. He had a hernia issue that needed addressing in the offseason. He's supposed to be 100%. We just saw Twitter videos of him working out with Cam Newton, jumping up, running down the field, running at full speed. So there's potential here from now to be 100% going into this season, a potential to bounce back from last year's numbers where he was playing injured. And number three, there's a lot of talk supposedly about this revamped offense here. We're going to have a new coach, there's going to be a new offensive coordinator. There's a better offensive line. If we can get Baker Mayfield to play just like he did as a rookie, not even like he did last year, but just a little bit better, marginally better. There's a potential for upside here for Beckham, who, again, we saw early in his career, first 3 years in the league, he had at least 1,300 yards receiving while Eli Manning was throwing him the football. Eli Manning is not that great of a regular season quarterback there. The potential for upside with Odell Beckham is huge. You're getting him in the 3rd round, just like you're getting Allen Robinson. But I think that there's a possibility of him being a top 10 type wide receiver. Again, health pending, and if Baker can just play a little bit better.
I think Allen Robinson also has a chance to be a top 10 wide receiver. And I took Allen Robinson in that poll, and here's why. Number one, last year, he saw 154 targets, which he turned into 98 catches and over 1,100 yards. So that's his first 1,000-yard campaign since 2015 and the most single-season receptions of his career. He basically is the offense in Chicago. Number two, they didn't fix the offensive line, which means running the ball is going to be difficult again. I get it. David Montgomery is going to get some opportunity, but they didn't do it last year. They didn't really do anything to improve their run game in the offseason. So that means they're going to have to throw. And they didn't replace Taylor Gabriel. So between Anthony Miller and Allen Robinson, somebody's got to get some more targets. I think they both will, but I think Robinson is the way they'll go because we know that he's very successful and he helps them on their way to winning. So I think he could easily see 150 targets this year, which would be pretty incredible. And number three, sort of the same argument you have for OBJ. He did all of this last year with subpar play at quarterback. He had Mitch Trubisky throwing him the ball. Listen, we don't know who's going to be throwing him the ball this year. It might be Nick Foles. It might be Mitch Trubisky. But no matter what, it's probably going to be a little bit of an upgrade. Whether Nick Foles' presence makes Mitch Trubisky better because of the competition or whether Nick Foles takes over and does a better job, it can't get much worse. So I think Allen Robinson could only get a little bit better.
Yeah, I think ADP-wise, Robinson is certainly a great value. I've seen him go as late as the 4th round in some best ball drafts that I've done. Likewise for Odell Beckham, but I see more often than not people are willing to reach for Beckham, where Robinson really does kind of hold true to what his ADP is. I don't have too much bad to say about him because I do like him. I would say that the Bears did sort of make a more commitment maybe to the tight end position. They let go Trey Burton. They signed Jimmy Graham and drafted Cole Kmet, who was the number 1 ranked tight end in the draft. Now, again, rookie tight ends don't often make a huge impact, and Graham is certainly more of an end zone threat than he is anything else, really, at this point in his career. But they did add it a little bit there. They also did bring in Ted Ginn, who's technically going to be their third receiver. You'll probably see Anthony Miller move towards the slot, and you'll have Ginn be the other outside receiver, take away some of the deep throws that maybe Robinson would typically get. But, I mean, again, not too many holes to be poked there. I am a little bit more of a believer in a possible bounce back from the run game last year. I feel like Nagy was criticized so harshly for how the play calling went with Montgomery at times that he's going to try to work on him being a little bit more involved, maybe scheme for him a little bit better. Plus, you mentioned the loss of Taylor Gabriel. Tariq Cohen is more than likely going to line up in the slot a lot as well. They could use both running backs in the field at the same time. We're talking about Cohen, who has back-to-back 70-catch seasons on his resume, so could easily kind of fit into that role also.
But we could be talking about the same teams, but opposite here, because you talked about Chicago committing to the tight end position. Well, what about Cleveland going and getting Austin Hooper? So he could potentially steal some targets from OBJ as well. I mean, you never know what they're going to do. They have a new offensive coordinator. They have a new coach. We don't know what Stefanski's going to do. Are they going to run some more? I mean, they have Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. They have great talent there. So it's kind of funny when we started poking holes in each other's arguments, I realized that they kind of work both ways. We happen to pick teams that are kind of doing the same thing. Although Cleveland does have a stronger run game and a stronger run plan. I'm sure of that.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely have Chubb and Hunt there that are going to certainly see their share. Again, for me, it just all goes about Baker. I mean, last year, Beckham had his lowest catch percentage of his career. Only 55% of the passes thrown to him he was able to catch. There's a guy that averages over 60% catch rate for his career. Again, he's more of a downfield receiver, so, the catch rates aren't Michael Thomas level, but, I mean, this is a guy that has historically been able to, catch the ball a little bit better when the ball is being able to thrown to him a little bit more accurately. So if Baker has improved this year, I think, that whole offense as a whole will improve. And you and I are not the biggest Baker Mayfield fans, but, the Browns certainly have the upside to, being a very strong offense.
All right, so guys, two receivers we think that have huge upside for this year, if they even get marginally better quarterback play, are OBJ and Allen Robinson. Who would you take? Who do you prefer, OBJ or Allen Robinson? We had a vote on this earlier this week, but go ahead and comment here, as well as who you'd rather take, Mike Gesicki or Hayden Hurst. And now we get to the real hard-hitting question, because it is summertime, John and Pimba, and I need to know, lake or ocean?
Well, I mean, I think our backgrounds sort of, decide or tell what we're choosing here. Growing up in New England, of course, we have all of the beaches. We have the Cape, we have Maine, we have New Hampshire. But I grew up going to lakes more than I did going to the beach. More importantly, the lake behind me is Newfound Lake up in Bristol, New Hampshire. Family had a lake house on there, so I've always been more endeared to the lake life. And let me tell you why. Number one, you don't have to deal with any of the salt water. Salt water can get you sticky. It's just kind of gross when you're getting on the sand. It's just like all about the saltiness to me is unappealing. I much rather the nice, clean lake water, especially the lakes up in New Hampshire. You can see right through the bottom there. They're perfect. Number two, I'm a big freshwater fisher. I like to be able to get on a little canoe, go out to the middle of the lake, fish for a couple hours, come back out. As much as I like fishing, if you want to go in the ocean and fish, you want to go deep sea fishing, you're out in a boat for like 8 hours. Deep in the middle of the ocean. Yeah, there's bigger fish out there, but it's a whole day event. You're in the sun. Not for me. I'd much rather just, again, get on my little canoe, go out there in the middle, catch some bass, catch some lake trout, and come back in. And number three, there's no sharks in lakes, and sharks are terrifying. Especially, again, being in New England, down by the Cape, especially, for whatever reason, there's been an increase in shark attacks. You're always seeing them around there. So keep me away from the sharks, get me away from the salty water and the long fishing trips like you see out in the ocean, and give me a lake, give me a canoe, give me a fishing rod, and let me enjoy my time in the summer.
Wow. So I'm laughing because all your reasons for a lake are all my reasons against a lake, which means we probably would not have the best summer vacation together. I mean, I would enjoy going to a lake, but the main reason I'm not a fan of the lake is because, yeah, that's what I did growing up. In Dallas, there's some lakes, White Rock Lake, and you go to the lake, maybe you water ski a little bit. But here's the thing. When you go to the beach, you get waves, beautiful waves. The natural beauty is incredible. And you get a beach. yeah, I know maybe it's a little messy, but how fun is it to have that gritty feeling between your toes and you feel like you're in touch with nature and it's warm and you're getting a suntan and you got your bathing suit on. It's so much fun. It's just gorgeous and it feels like you're far away. It's not like you're just like next door at the lake. You went somewhere. If you're at a beach, you went somewhere. Number 2 is the sea life. Like freshwater fish, they're like gray, they're brown, they're not that exciting. Sea life, you got dolphins. Yes, you got sharks, but then again, so does DFS. You got beautiful fish. If you go snorkeling, you can see red things, yellow things. It's gorgeous. You could even see a shipwreck. There's so many cool things under the ocean. So to me, the sea life makes it much more interesting. And number 3, because I always have to go this way, it's just the food. Usually there's beach service. There's usually beach service. You can usually get a pina colada, a mojito, something like that, as well as some kind of fun beach food while you're under your umbrella. You know, you can do it that way, or you can bring a picnic, obviously. But anytime you're at the beach, you're probably having something festive and something fun. So I am 100% an ocean girl. As you can see by my background, this is actually Hawaii.
I was gonna say, do you have a favorite ocean or beach location?
Probably my favorite beach is the French beach called Orient Bay in St. Martin, the French side of the island of St. Martin. Okay. And then that's more like a white sandy beach. And then, of course, the Anguilla beaches, which are really beautiful too. And then as far as America's concerned, either obviously all the beaches in California, all the way up the Oregon coast are gorgeous. And then who can beat Hawaii? I mean, it's just the most gorgeous thing ever.
I haven't been able to go to Hawaii yet. It's certainly on the list of things to do. My girlfriend was a big traveler, so this about a year and a half ago, I want to say now, we went out to Turks and Caicos in Grace Bay. And yeah, I mean, if there was ever I guess a beach that I would be okay with, that was it. The water was warm. You still had to go with the salt and sand, which is like, whatever. But you could see right to the bottom of it. It was clear. So I always tell her, if she wants to go to a beach, take me back there. Take me back to Grace Bay, and I'll be for it. So, but I'm much more of a mountains, lake guy than I am the sandy beaches.
All right. Well, we'll call this one a draw. But you guys, what would you prefer? A lake vacation or an ocean vacation? Let us know. Also, let us know what's your favorite lake or what's your favorite beach, because hey, we want to go there. We want to go anywhere.
As soon as we can get out of the house, I want to go there. So,
that's right. All right. This has been yet another edition of a 3-point play. We hope we gave you guys some good information. We talked about 2 tight ends we really like late. We talked about 2 wide receivers we also really like in the 3rd round, though obviously Allen Robinson is better than OBJ and Hayden Hurst is better than Mike Gesicki.
Maybe. We'll find out.
John and Pimba doesn't agree, but we'll find out in the 2020 season. You guys give Fantasy Alarm a follow on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, even on Twitch, and we will catch you next time.